Have you ever just stopped and thought about how we make sense of the millions, literally millions of species on our planet? I mean, from the tiniest bacterium to a blue whale, life is this incredible, beautiful explosion of diversity. In this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain on how we manage to bring some order to that beautiful chaos, creating a kind of grand library for all living things. All right, let's get into it.
So right off the bat, here's the massive challenge. The sheer variety of life out there can feel, well, totally overwhelming. How do you even begin to categorize it all? You know, where does a mushroom fit in compared to a fern, or a leopard to some single-celled organism? It's a puzzle on an epic scale. And honestly, solving it is one of science's absolute greatest achievements.
And to really get a handle on just how big this puzzle is, we need to talk about this one key idea: biodiversity. And it's so much more than just counting up all the different animals and plants. It's about the incredible, mind-boggling variation in their genes and the huge, complex ecosystems they create, from the deepest oceans to the highest mountains. This is the total richness of life we needed a map for, but for centuries, we were basically flying blind. That is, until the 1700s. And that's when this guy, a Swedish botanist named Carolus Linnaeus, steps onto the scene. Now, his big idea wasn't just about organizing things neatly. No, it was a totally radical way of thinking. The idea that all of nature, in all its wild complexity, could actually be systematically ordered and understood by us. He basically set out to become nature's first great librarian. So, how did he do it? Well, Linnaeus' system is brilliant. You can think of it like a cosmic address. It starts super broad with the domain, and then gets more and more specific with every single step down: kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, until, bam, you land on one single, unique species. Let's make this real. Let's find the address for a leopard. Okay, we start in the big one, domain Eukarya, because its cells have a nucleus. Then kingdom Animalia, it's an animal. Phylum Chordata, it's got a backbone. We keep going down, all the way to the cat family, Felidae. And then finally, its unique species name, Panthera pardus. See? Every level gets us closer. And that two-part name is the real genius of the whole system. It's called binomial nomenclature, and it's a game changer. Look, we might call it a leopard, someone else a lapidar, or a panthère, but scientists everywhere, no matter what language they speak, know it as Panthera pardus. This universal language, the genus plus that specific name, just wiped out all the confusion and let biology become a truly global science. But here's the thing about science: it never, ever stands still. So you have to ask, was this really elegant system created centuries ago based just on what we could see with our own eyes the final word? Was that it? Not even close. The story of life was about to get a major, major plot twist. And that plot twist arrived in 1977, thanks to the work of a man named Carl Woese. By looking at the genetic code itself, getting right down into the molecular level with something called ribosomal RNA, he uncovered a level of organization so deep, so fundamental, that nobody had even imagined it was there. He didn't just add a new shelf to the library, he redrew the entire blueprint of the building. What Woese found completely changed our view of life. And the real shocker? The deepest, most ancient split in all of life wasn't between plants and animals. Nope, it was hidden away in the microscopic world. He showed us that every single living thing on this planet falls into one of just three fundamental groups, just three domains. And here they are. You've got two domains, bacteria and archaea. These guys are all prokaryotes, super simple, single-celled life with no nucleus. Then there's the third one, eukarya. And that's where we live, along with every plant, fungus, and protist. We're all eukaryotes because our cells do have a nucleus. This simple three-domain tree is the modern foundation for how we see all of biology. Okay, so now that we've got the huge picture, let's zoom in on our own little cosmic neighborhood, domain Eukarya. We already met the leopard from kingdom Animalia, so let's take a quick tour of some of the other wild and fascinating kingdoms that are in there with us. First up, Kingdom Protista. And honestly, this is kind of like biology's miscellaneous drawer. It's this catch-all group for any eukaryote that doesn't quite fit in as a plant, an animal, or a fungus. The diversity in here is just insane. You have plant-like algae, like chlorella, which is a food source. And then you have animal-like protozoa, like Plasmodium, the nasty little guy that causes malaria. It's a real mixed bag. All right, next up, let's talk about kingdom fungi. These organisms are, and I mean this,
absolutely essential to life on Earth. They are nature's great recyclers. They break down all the dead stuff and return those precious nutrients back into the ecosystem so new life can grow.
So what makes a fungus a fungus? Well, for one, they're heterotrophs, meaning they have to absorb their food from other things. And their cell walls are made of this tough stuff called chitin, totally different from plants. And of course, they reproduce using these tiny little spores. That's how things like mushrooms and molds get around.
And you really can't overstate how important they are to us. Just think about it for a second. The yeast that makes our bread rise? That's a fungus. The life-saving antibiotic penicillin? It comes from the penicillium mold, often grown right in a petri dish like this. Our world would literally be unrecognizable without them.
Now let's move on to the kingdom that pretty much builds our world from the ground up. Kingdom Plantae. I love this term for them. The green architects. They are the producers, the organisms that form the foundation of almost every single food web on land.
Yeah, we all know a plant when we see one, but what's the official definition? Well, they're multicellular eukaryotes that make their own food through photosynthesis. Their cell walls are built from rigid cellulose, and they have this really fascinating life cycle called alternation of generations, where they switch between two totally different forms. It's almost like having two different bodies in one lifetime.
And that life cycle tells this incredible evolutionary story. The earliest plants, like mosses, spent most of their lives in one form, called the gametophyte. But as plants evolved, through ferns to pine trees and finally to flowering plants, the other form, the sporophyte, totally took over. So basically, the big, obvious plant we see today, like an oak tree or a rose, is that dominant sporophyte form. Pretty cool, right?
Okay, so we've built this amazing map of life, journeying from Linnaeus all the way to Woese, from domains down to species. But let's ask the big question. Why does any of this matter? Why does this grand filing system have any impact on our actual lives?
Well, because understanding these groups gives us incredible power. Knowing the specific job of the bacterium Rhizobium lets us improve soil health and grow more food. Identifying the right fungus, Penicillium, gave us world-changing antibiotics. And learning how to work with the genetics of E. coli basically launched the entire field of biotechnology. Each label on the map is a key to unlocking potential.
So in the end, this is so much more than just some academic exercise in naming things. This system of classification is a vital, practical tool. It helps us track and save endangered species, it helps us identify and fight new diseases, and it helps us truly appreciate the unbelievably intricate web that connects every single living thing on this planet.
Which really just leaves us with one last huge question. We have this incredible map now, this guide to the vast library of life. But we know for a fact there are still millions of unread books on the shelves, species we haven't even discovered yet. So you have to wonder, with this map in hand, where, in this unbelievably complex tree of life, will we find the next great world-changing discovery?